Dunne. I'm the head of the Design Interactions program at the Royal College of Art and a partner in the design studio Dunne Raby. The Digitarians basically is probably the closest one to the present, but also probably the most dystopian. And it looks at how digital technologies and, I guess, extreme market-driven capitalism combine. The communo-nuclearists look at collectivism and nuclear technology, and it's about a limited population and no growth society based on a mobile state that moves on tracks. The bioliberals look at what will happen when or if biotechnology fulfills its promise and leads to a very different way of meeting our needs in a more kind of harmonious way with nature. And the anarcho-evolutionists reject most technologies and focus on improving themselves through biohacking, training, physical exercise, and that side of things. They're basically of the view that we shouldn't keep transforming the landscape to meet our ever-expanding views, but we should turn knowledge on ourselves and adjust ourselves to fit within the limits of the planet. We came up with the ideas for the different groups of people fairly early on in the project and then needed a way of translating that into something, some kind of system, product or service, and looked at many, many different possibilities. But in the end we settled on transport because the car in particular represents all sorts of 20th century ideals about freedom, independence, escape and the achievements of technology. And so we're interested in dropping that into different contexts and seeing how that dream might change or turn into a nightmare. But also the car or the vehicle or transport allows us to work at two scales. We can look at the thing, the scale model of that system, but we can also then start to imagine what is the infrastructure necessary in energy terms, roads, rail or whatever. So, and I think for us it's kind of interesting. It's an area we haven't worked in before, so looking at transport kind of is quite exciting to see what possibilities were in there. I think when most people think about design, they do think of it as a problem-solving activity, which kind of leads to this solutionism mindset where every issue, whether it be social, cultural, technological, can in some way be solved through design thinking. And I guess in the work we do, we're more interested in directing our efforts towards changing our attitudes and values and goals, I guess. So the design is meant to act on our imaginations and spark new thinking, reframing problems, opening up new perspectives, being provocative, rather than offering a potential solution for something. So in this project, we're not offering better ways of thinking about transport in the UK, I hope, but more conversations around how transport and ideology and culture interact together. I'm particularly interested in science fiction, more so than Fiona, but much more interested in the social and the political consequences of new technologies and how they're played out in sci-fi. And often the backstories about the cities and worlds that the stories are set in are more interesting than the actual stories for me. I like writers like Margaret Atwood, who kind of takes technologies that exist today and just exaggerates them a little bit and then looks at what might happen when they're unleashed on society. So in this project, I guess we were very much inspired by that sort of way of doing things, but wanted to look at what happens when you place the emphasis on the props, on the design aspects, rather than the bigger stories that you can deal with in literature. So people, we tend to come up with the overall concept, and then we translate that concept into designs, and then when it comes to the actual production of those designs, we tend to get other people on board to help us realise them, and also contribute other aspects to the project. So, for example, with the biocars, one of our graduates, Stefan Schwab, developed the kombucha covers for the cards. It's a material he's been working with over the last few years, and he was very interested in seeing if he could make three-dimensional forms out of that material. So we set a mini brief for him, and then he interpreted that and developed those covers. With the digicars, Nicholas Myers worked out different possibilities for how the cars would interact and be controlled, the system thinking, and then visualize those through an animation. And Tobias Revel developed a tariff system for the pricing of the cars. We like to work with a video maker or a photographer on each project, and on this project we worked with Jason Evans, who basically was interested in taking the objects and presenting them back as models. So we didn't want to obviously do a future scenario or a sci-fi scene, but asked Jason to think about putting the photographs outside of time. So when a viewer sees them, we're hoping that they'll wonder when these are. Are they a future, a past, an alternative present? So he carefully selected clothing that some from vintage shops, some very contemporary, that sent out little clues about where it might be, and then filled the photos with lots of other little props and hints that in a way could be confusing because they don't locate the scenes in one place. But I think the idea is that someone might say, when are these taken and where are they taken? Who are these people? Are they the inventors or consumers, or are they looking at these objects in future storage systems at the back of museums? And we wanted to kind of explore that ambiguity. I think as designers we're basically programmed to stay away from dystopia and negative thoughts. We have to think positively, optimistically, make things beautiful, and it is very difficult to introduce dark thinking into the design world. But I think that they have a usefulness. They allow us to bring our fears to the surface and bring those into discussions about technological futures. So it's not necessarily a pessimistic or a negative position to take. It's more, let's pursue a what if and see if we can have a useful discussion about what people's anxieties might be about a particular technological future. I think in the exhibition they're meant to be mixed. There's utopian and dystopian elements to each as you start to run through what the trade-offs might be for the benefits, and we've tried to stay clear of obviously dystopian or utopian outcomes for each state.